This is CBSSports.com. I'm Kevin Cork. This is where we're always helping you keep an eye on college football. Time once again to welcome Chip Patterson to the program. He's one of our Eye on College Football bloggers, and he helps us get ready for our postseason awards. As we continue our look at our awards, Chip, I want to ask you about the individual performance on the offensive side of the football. Listen, there are a lot of great games out there, and I'm going to sort of back time it and give the folks at home just sort of a sense of some of the great ones we're considering, including Kenyan Barner. A lot of people don't know how great this kid was because Oregon plays in the Pacific time zone. Maybe they didn't get a chance to see him, but he had some fantastic games this year.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing about Kenyan Barner, and he had to share that spotlight with Marcus Mariota and DeAnthony Thomas, the Black Mamba. Everybody loved, all the shiny toys that Chip Kelly gets to play with. But in the game that really mattered the most, right there in that USC-Oregon battle, which ended up being a little bit of a shootout, even though Oregon seemed to be in control from the get-go, the fact was, on that big stage, the star of the team, Kenyan Barner, he delivered. He carried the ball 38 times for 321 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that'll sort of be a theme throughout as I look at all the different offensive performances. Not just when did you blow up the stat sheet, but when did you blow up the stat sheet and your team needed you to. And Kenyan Barner needed to have a big game and 321 yards rushing. I mean, Kevin, come on.
Yeah,
it's pretty incredible.
That is incredible no matter how you slice it. Okay, number 4, the cast in that West Virginia Baylor game. We talked a great deal about this, and we say the cast because, quite honestly, the guys were catching balls. They were running all over the field. I mean, for us, even here in the office, you couldn't believe it. It was like if you left and went and got a Coke and you came back, it looked like somebody else had scored a touchdown. That was an incredible game. We'll talk more about that. A game that obviously saw 133 points on the board all told. Number 3, though, I want to get to that. Montel Harris. People don't know much about Temple. Why don't you tell me about the job he did against Army there, Chip?
Well, Montel Harris, a lot of people don't know about Temple, but a lot of people also don't know that he was a couple of strong games away from becoming the ACC's career rushing yards leader, breaking Ted Brown's record from NC State, one that stood for almost over 30 years, I believe. He transfers to Temple. Steve Adazio puts him in that backfield, and Steve Adazio loves to run the ball. And if you have a hot hand, he will run you all day. And Montel Harris got 36 carries, runs for 351 yards and 7 touchdowns, falls just short of the NCAA single-game rushing total set by LaDainian Tomlinson back at TCU.
Pretty heady company, to say the least. Meanwhile, number 2, Marquise Lee is the outstanding wide receiver at Southern California. Here's a guy who, once again, has had tremendous individual performances throughout the year, and in particular, his standout performance of this year was that 16-catch, look at the number, folks, 345-yard, 2-touchdown performance against the Arizona Wildcats. Bear down, yeah, right. Arizona did do that. They ultimately won the game 39-36, but Lee certainly held up his end of the bargain. So if those are numbers 5, 4, 3, and 2, I have to ask, Chip Patterson, who gets the number 1 nod?
Well, Kevin, if we were going to do the cast of the West Virginia-Baylor game, then you might have had an idea that my number 1 offensive performance of 2012 was the star of West Virginia-Baylor, Mr. Geno Smith, because everyone was putting up video game numbers. Stedman Bailey, 300 yards receiving. Terrence Williams for Baylor, 300 yards receiving. 581 yards for Nick Florence, the Baylor quarterback. But even in a world of video game numbers, Geno Smith was operating with cheat codes. He throws 45 for 51 passes, 656 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And it wasn't just his high completion percentage. It was the fact that he was dropping in 40-yard passes that were landing just right on the money for Stedman Bailey and Tavon Austin. It was the game that sort of raised everyone's eyebrows, not just at Geno Smith as a system quarterback in Dana Holgerson's offense, but Geno Smith as a NFL prospect with his ability to make those big boy throws.
Boy, it was an absolute thrill to watch, without a question. If you love offensive football, that's one you want to keep. You want to pass it around to high school coaches all over college coaches for that matter, and say this is how you light up a scoreboard. Great stuff. Chip Patterson helping us break down the best single-game offensive performances of the college football season, and he gives his vote to Geno Smith. And, of course, you can learn more about our best of by going to our website, CBSSports.com. Speaking of, we're very active online. We have a Facebook page. We certainly want you to like us there, and we want you to follow us on Twitter. Our handle is IOnCFB. And a reminder, everybody, we have the Army-Navy game coming up this weekend. Kicks off Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll have your pregame show beginning at around 2:50. We'll also have all the details that's been happening in college football all day long. Join us for the great rivalry game Saturday right here at CBSSports.com.